Yeah. Shri Piyush Goyal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
आपने तो कमाल कर दिया.
Underneath the gloss and glitter of the second fastest growing economy lies another India of about 330 million BPL families, the largest number of malnourished children in the world. It is in this background that the nation expected a visionary budget to alleviate the misery of poor Bharat. On the contrary, the budget has let down the Aam Aadmi and become an exercise in financial engineering, as I will attempt to decipher in the next few minutes. The Union Budget is not just a statement of accounts, sir. It should not just contain statistics. It was intended to reflect the vision and foresight and statesmanship and should hold a promise of a better tomorrow for the millions who repose their faith in the UPA government. The Honorable Finance Minister is a veteran and he gave great hope to all of us. Unfortunately, this budget belies all such expectations. It is devoid of any vision, foresight, focus, statesmanship, initiative or drive. So this has been a missed opportunity. As India enters the last year of the 5-year plan, 11th 5-year plan, we see that on almost all parameters, this government has failed. Power, where the target was 78,577 megawatt, they have only managed to achieve 32,000 megawatt. In highways, 35,000 kilometers were to be built. 7,736 kilometers have been built. Crude oil production, which was slated to be 187 million tons, is only 130 million tons. Coal production against 680 million tons is only 319 million tons. The major ports were to handle 511 million tons. They handle only 297 million tons. What has been the performance of this government? And for everything that we ask them a question about, they only go back to the NDA performance and try and juggle with figures and statistics to try and juxtapose part of the performance vis-a-vis the NDA performance. One would ask them what they did for 50 years of governance. 50 years they ran the government in this country out of 60 years. And what have they given us to show to the world in terms of performance? Sir, I think it is time this government announced performance audits. Performance audit of all the schemes that they are doing by the private initiative, by private participation, to understand where really we are going wrong. Because they really have no concrete blueprint to achieve literacy, education and health care for all. It is not just mere statistical budget provision that is going to solve the problem. A senior colleague mentioned about MNREGA, and he mentioned that the Mahatma Gandhi Narega program is providing employment to the people of this country. Is that the sort of employment that this government wants to give the people? Another senior colleague from the Treasury benches himself raised a question 2 weeks ago, saying that the government should focus on creating assets and not just give a dole to the people who are working in Manrega. Where are the assets being created? Look at the performance of NDA. They created infrastructure, gave jobs to people in creating assets and not just distribution of Manrega funds. And then, sir, they are boasting of the performance of Manrega. Look at the performance. So far, as of 9th March 2011, the total sanctions under Manrega are 34,850 crores. Out of 34,000 crores, sir, in the last 68 days, from January 1st to 9th March, in the last 68 days, 20,864 crores has been sanctioned and possibly disbursed in the last few days. How is this money ever going to reach the common man? It's a complete farce. They are talking of schemes, not being able to implement the schemes on the ground. And if giving 40-50 days of employment to the poor people is their idea of giving employment and uplifting the poor people, I think it's a very sorry state of affairs of the UPA government's performance. Sir, they talk about eradicating black money and coming out with schemes to take care of black money. The finance minister in the press conference recently said they collected 34,500 crores through the Director General of International Taxation. Sir, I went into the books a little bit and I found it was routine tax collection comprising international companies, transfer pricing, foreign bank branches, TDS or withholding tax on foreign remittances, FII short-term capital gains tax. There was nothing to do with black money. This was not a part of the collection out of any significant effort to go after black money or foreign accounts. In fact, the money they have collected from foreign accounts is less than 20 crores, sir. Sir, I would also recommend this government come out with a blueprint of how all procurement processes in this government are going to take place and how they are going to allocate natural resources. It is time we made a policy on this. We should announce a transparent price discovery mechanism through e-auction for all purchases of the government and for all allocation of natural resources, be it spectrum, be it oil and gas reserves, be it coal, be it iron ore, be it any mineral, be it land, government land, all government resources should only be allocated by a transparent e-procurement process where everybody has a right to participate rather than fudging and doing the kind of things that we have seen this government do in the last few days. Sir, I am very worried there is a provision in this budget which I think is an amnesty scheme in disguise. The Honourable Finance Minister is on record, I believe the Honourable Prime Minister is on record, saying that they do not want to bring an amnesty scheme. It is a disincentive to honest taxpayers. But they have brought in a provision by which dividends repatriated from overseas subsidiary will be taxed at a reduced rate of 15% against 30%. What is this way? What is this method of giving this amnesty? Any company can be incorporated overseas in less than 48 hours. They can move their funds from wherever they are in tax havens into that company by way of commission or any entries and repatriate that into the country as a dividend at 15%. So this is an indirect amnesty scheme that this government has introduced. I believe it is important that the government bring out safeguards to make sure these dividends are out of genuine income, they are out of sustained income over the last few years, and they check the source of these dividends to make sure this is not surreptitious money which is being brought in the garb of dividends. Sir, the SEZ policy of this government has been completely flawed from day one. The NDA brought in the SEZ concept as a means to bring export competitiveness in India, as a means to develop the backward regions. What did this government do? They made it a real estate play. You now have SEZs in Gurgaon. You have an SEZ in the municipal limits of Mumbai. You have a 20-acre IT SEZ within Mumbai at Powai. Is that the type of development for which we are giving tax concessions to SEZs? And then this government changes policy, flip-flops on policy every few days. You read in the paper today, the Commerce Ministry and Finance Ministry are sparring. The Finance Ministry first gave all the concessions to SEZ. Now they are withdrawing all the concessions. They are bringing in MAT. They are bringing in dividend distribution tax for units and developers of SEZ. I think it's time this government focused on stable long-term policy and attack the misuse. If at all they want to tax SEZ developers, tax the real estate developers, not the genuine infrastructure developers in backward regions. You have to differentiate between the two. Sir, there is 2.48 lakh crores held up in tax litigation. This government is on record saying that tax litigation is one of the biggest problems and the largest litigant is the government. Why does the government not come out with schemes, fast track or special courts, at least for the large cases? And there is a tendency, sir, in the government departments, revenue departments, just slap a case and slap a tax or a penalty. आगे निपटा जाएगा जो भी होना है, हमने तो कर दिया अपना काम. And that has also become a tool to extort and harass people. So I think there should be some accountability on litigation also of the government. There is a lot of talk of computerization of the tax department which started in 91. We are hearing of it for 20 years and till today I have not received any assessment through the computer. Refunds are a big problem. Tax credit on TDS is a big problem and I think this government should focus to sort out these computerization problems. Sir, I have an important observation to make on the misuse of DTA treaties, especially through Mauritius. I can understand if Mauritius was the originator of capital and bringing it into India. Giving tax benefit for that is understandable. But when Mauritius or other such treaties are being misused only as a pass-through vehicle, where actual funds come in from some other domain into Mauritius and then are brought into India. This is just round-tripping of funds or using Mauritius as a pass-through. I think government should differentiate, give the tax benefit to Mauritius, I have no problem. But it should be only for genuine funds coming from those countries. Wherever it's used as a pass-through, there should be a tax levied. And I'm often told that there's a foreign relations issue. If at all Mauritius earns some money out of being used as a pass-through, it will be $100, $200, $300 million. Our country will be better off giving a grant of $300 million to Mauritius one time or every year. But we'll probably earn billions of dollars of tax revenue, which are going in the garb of tax treaties for so many years. And especially in the case of FII money coming into India, I think some sort of control should be done so that this misuse can be stopped. Sir, they have imposed 1% excise on 130 items. I don't know what revenue they will get, but certainly it will create a lot of problem for assessees, registration, returns, audit, transaction costs will go up. They must reconsider that 1% excise. In the power sector, there is no long-term philosophy, no reform. In fact, the money that was allocated last year has not been used also. I don't know what this government plans to do for the power sector. Tourism is completely denied anything. There is no focus on tourism. There is no future for tourism. Sir, they have talked of reforms in GST and tried to attack the NDA government. The fiscal autonomy of states has to be protected, especially the effects of natural calamities. They should be given some method to protect their fiscal autonomy. I don't think any state is against it as long as their genuine concerns are taken care of. Sir, one important thing I want to talk about is the inflation that a senior learned colleague tried to attack and brush the NDA regime in the same brush as the UPA regime. I went into complete statistics. The WPI in the previous Congress-led regime from 91 to 96 grew at an average of 9.3%. It was the NDA through its sheer fiscal prudence which brought it down to 4.9%. Half. We reduced the WPI inflation to half. And then this government came in again and again it started inching up. And their average for 7 years that they have been in power is 6.2%. But look at food inflation. Food inflation in the government of NDA, the food inflation at an average was 3.5%. But the 7 years of this government, food inflation has been an average of 10%. And if you take the last 5 years, it is 12%. It is a very disturbing feature, sir. And this government is answerable to the people of India for the kind of inflation that they have caused. So one last point that I would like to take. This government has given us a budget which is not honest in its figures. Sir, the last year's budget estimates and the revised estimates have gone up by 10%. If you see, the budget estimate itself was 10% over the actuals. So overall increase is 20%. And now they say they'll contain the expenditure at 3.5%. It's just humanly impossible. What are they going to cut back on? They have not provided for oil subsidies adequately. They have not provided for food subsidy. They have not provided for the food security bill. I believe this fiscal deficit is a threat. It will go up by at least 2 lakh crores. We spending this government in the coming year, and the interest rates will rise, money supply will tighten, with government being a big borrower, and there's severe threat to the future of this country.
Please conclude, please.
I think the numbers just don't add up. The plans are not
Please
enough.
conclude, please conclude.
Policies are not credible.
Because there are other 3 persons from your party, three members to speak, participate.
Has a solid plan to
Hardly
achieve
there is
this
any
project.
time.
Thank you, sir.